All right, we're live. Hey everyone, I'm Shar and I'm here with Kristy, and this is Colourisma. So, this is the weekly art cast, web show, whatever, that basically explores people's passion and why they get into art. So, today I'm joined by Kristy, and I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself, Kristy, a little bit. And Kristy, yes, that's a word, and also help promote your shop.
Sure. So I am primarily a acrylic painter, and I love to paint animals and flowers, and oftentimes animals surrounded by flowers. Um, uh, that is my main subject matter in media, and I've been doing that for, um, well, we'll get into this longer story later, but I would say most of my life been an artist. And I have a Etsy shop where I sell original paintings, prints, stickers, greeting cards, that kind of thing. And that is, if you go on Etsy and search K Guenther Art, you'll find me there. And I'm actually K Guenther Art across every social media, so Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, everything. So yeah.
And if anyone is just listening to the cast, do you want to spell out your last name so they can get it correctly?
Yes, the last name is Guenther. So there's an E in there that people don't usually remember.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. I was curious, what kind of led you down the path of being an artist? You said already that you kind of started as a kid.
Yeah, so do you want me to kind of start the way back?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Like kind of wherever it was that
Yeah,
that kind of basically led you to the point where you're at today. Yeah, for sure.
sure. So, I mean, if you ask a lot of artists this question, they all say they've been drawing ever since they were a little kid. So that's true
Mm-hmm.
for me. But growing up, like, I never I never thought of it as a career option, like not from lack of encouragement or support or anything. Just when I thought of people being artists, I thought of, painters trying to get their stuff into galleries and starving in the
Mm-hmm.
meantime. So
Yeah.
it just, even as a kid, didn't seem like a viable career option. So as I was growing up, I was thinking of other things. Like thought I was going to be a vet for a while because I love animals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I almost was an English major. And what made me change my mind was in senior year, my best friend came to me and she's like, "Hey, so I found this major at this local college. It's called illustration. And it lets you learn how to do illustrations for books and magazines and businesses." And I was like, "Oh, so you could be like an artist but actually make money at it?" That was like the thought process.
Right.
Um, so I went to art school, and throughout my art school kind of journey, I I made all my projects into something having to do with animals. Like
Mm-hmm.
it came easiest, and it just was the most interesting thing to me because obviously I love animals, so it seemed like a no-brainer. But
Yeah.
while this was going on, all of the instructors would say, like, you need to make a portfolio that shows a broad range of stuff
Mm-hmm.
if you want to make money early on. And they're like, well, you can niche down later on, but at the beginning, if you want to make any money, you got to show that you can do a broad range of subject matter. And I was like, well, I'll get to that eventually. Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Graduated with a portfolio full of animals and flowers, um, and then got out of college, and I was like, well, shoot, I need to put more things in my portfolio because I don't know how to market this portfolio. I
Right.
just had no idea. And so I tried to give myself assignments. I was like, well, I love the fantasy genre, like across all media. That's my favorite
Mm-hmm.
thing. So maybe I'll do some fantasy art.
Yeah.
Well, I tried, and I was like, I don't enjoy painting humans or anything really man-made.
Right.
I just wasn't into it. And part of me was like, well, you just haven't practiced enough. You're not good at it because you don't practice. And I was like, well, I don't practice because I'm not interested.
Right. That's the other reason. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So eventually, like, the motivation just kind of petered out and I stopped completely.
Yeah.
Like, I would sketch here and there, but I would make myself feel guilty about it because I was sketching
Mm.
animals, and I was like, I'm wasting my time sketching animals if I really wanted to be an artist, I would be working on these other things I'm supposed to have in my portfolio.
Yeah.
And so there came a point where I hadn't painted in like 2 years. This was, I think, 2017 at this point, 8 years after graduation of college. I had done like maybe a couple freelance little jobs and then just stopped working on it. I had an office job during this whole time, so I was just working there and living my life. And then in 2017, I was going to be turning 30 that year, and for some reason that clicked a thing in my mind, like, wait, I don't have my life together and I'm almost 30, which to anyone listening who's younger than that, like, that's not a thing. Like, if anyone tries to tell you you're supposed to have your life together by 30, that's stupid.
That's when you start. That's when you start living.
Exactly. But it still triggered something in me, and during that past 8 years, social media had exploded, and I was able to hear from all these different artists who were talking about their life on social media, and they were saying, hey, I'm doing this niche thing and I'm making money at it independently. And so it made me realize, like, oh, maybe I should just paint animals and see what happens.
Right. Yeah.
So like as soon as I gave myself that permission, that's what I started doing, and the motivation came back. And then I gradually started selling things, and now I'm at the point of, I'm doing commissions, I'm selling stuff in my store, and I'm just kind of seeing where it goes. I can see my business growing. I don't know exactly where it'll lead, but that's where I'm at right now.
Awesome. Yeah, I know I discovered you through TikTok. I feel like a few months ago now, maybe at the start of this whole pandemic situation.
I started posting
TikTok a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I discovered you. And I know on TikTok, it's a very controversial platform. I grew to like it because it was kind of fast paced and you could see a lot of content in a short amount of time. And it was at the stuff I was exposed to on the platform was very creative and it was the algorithm very much targeted exactly what I liked. If I liked one horse thing, then boom, my feed was full of horses. And I was like, oh wow, no other social media platform really does this like the way it did it. Especially I feel a few months ago, but as much as I was trying to like and find other artists on the platform, they'd either stop posting after a few weeks, which is understandable because it can be very discouraging sometimes. But I ended up finding your stuff and I was like, oh, cool. Another like wildlife animal artist too. So I immediately was attracted to what you were doing. How do you feel on the platform? Like what kind of drew you to it?
I feel like I don't have to take myself very seriously. It's a low pressure thing. The videos are 1 minute long, 15 seconds to a minute kind of thing. I can at the very low end of the creative spectrum on the platform, I can just turn on a camera on time-lapse mode while I'm painting something and have a video. And then if I feel like I can do something goofy or do something educational, then I will. But there's the potential for so much content out of one piece of art on there that it makes it easy to post a lot. And the organic reach is nice. It's grown a lot faster than any other platform for me. So
yeah. What, if you don't mind discussing, how many followers do you have on there now?
I think it's like 1,980 something, I think, as of today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So you can go live.
Oh, can I? Is that a thing that happens at a certain level? Oh.
After
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I have like 32 followers, so I have a ways to go yet, but you can jump right on live right now. Yeah.
Cool. I had no idea. Well, and it's nice. It's just weird because TikTok gives you more instant gratification than like Instagram does, because I've been on Instagram for posting consistently for 3 years and I've got 600 followers or something on there.
Right.
I've been on TikTok for less than a year, probably like 8 months. And it's crazy.
You do have to post kind of a lot though, I feel, to get attention. My once a week is not is not really cutting it, but
I've been trying to
gotta make more
do
time for
several
it.
times a week, but you know, sometimes it doesn't happen, and I can't beat myself up about it.
Yeah. The nice thing is I feel like it kind of retains your audience a little bit better. Like as soon as you do post again, it will get on people's pages so they can see it eventually.
Yep.
So that part's nice.
Yeah.
As far as just overall, what would you say like is the kind of most meaningful experience with art that kind of drew you into the whole genre? You said animals were definitely an inspiration.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess I'll come from that at two different ways. So drawing me to art in general, I would say there's like one thing that sticks out in my mind from childhood where like I drew something that I was like the most realistic thing I'd ever drawn. I think I was in elementary school and I ended up winning a prize for it. And I think that like triggered in my mind, like, oh, I can really do art. Because like it was outside of my school, it was like at a college, you know, art show for kids. And I was like, oh, validation. So that validation, I think, helped me a little bit. And then as far as like drew me toward the subject matter, I mean, I've always loved animals. I can't pinpoint a thing that made me super into animals, really. I did mention earlier that I always wanted to be a vet, and it was just a thing from childhood. My parents would always be like, yeah, she's an animal lover. I don't know where it came from, but I think painting them, there's something about painting them that gives me a connection or like access to the animal that I wouldn't have, like a wild animal that I'm never going to see in real life. You know, I think that's something that I like about it.
I feel too, the way we depict animals as artists is kind of the way we see them. I know I draw horses very goofy and ridiculous looking, and that's because that's how I see them. Like when I see a real horse and then I know it well enough to know its personality, that's what it kind of evolves into. And I know people, artists that draw their creatures very like bestial and like primal looking, and I feel like that's a reflection as to how they see those animals as like this like big primal like creature, as opposed to, I kind of focus on, for myself, I focus on the personality. That's kind of what because I've always been around animals, so animals and personality just kind of go hand in hand for me. Are you kind of the same way?
I think so. I'm trying to think of where to draw a connection there, but I mean, I think when I'm doing my most creative pieces, I'm always putting an animal in an environment that I find the most pleasant, like a wolf field of wildflowers, or a snail sitting on some mushrooms, like some sort of whatever kind of environment that I'm putting them in is what speaks to me the most, I guess.
Right.
I guess I don't know.
I get a sense of whimsy from your work too.
And that might be the connection back to fantasy too, because I don't do anything specifically fantasy necessarily, but I think there's maybe some elements that show through in how I depict things. So
yeah, that definitely shows through for me as someone who enjoys your work. Like I'm thinking about that snail, that piece, and how like it's so center into the piece, and it's everything is so detailed. As well, you just me on TikTok, it's just something that's going to happen, and I happen to just see one of your time
lapses.
Help me out here. Yes, time lapses of that piece, and you were talking about one of your methodologies of how you paint with the acrylic, but you make it look like watercolor.
It was.
How does that process work?
It was so up until the point I learned that technique, I only drew like pencil and colored pencil, and I didn't think I knew how to paint or could. It was the first technique that clicked for me. In the middle of college, I had a professor just like offhand show that was an acrylic technique that you could do, and it clicked. And the first piece I did that way came out really good, and I was like, oh, I can do this. So yeah, it's the nice thing about acrylic is that it's easily controlled and you can build it up in layers if you want to. But if you do it on watercolor paper, you can get that bleed effect, but then you let a layer dry and it stays there, and if you get it wet again, it's not going to bleed all over the place again. That's what I like about it. And then if there are areas that are highly detailed, I can use thicker paint and get some like finer lines and like, you know, little points of detail. That it's just a very versatile way to work, and it worked really well for me for quite a while. So
yeah, I always do watercolor kind of straight up, and I find the control in it is just by making it more opaque and using less water. That's where I get the control. But when I learned about that technique, I was like, oh, well, there's another way to do it. Obviously, it works out really well. Yeah, because just looking at your work, you wouldn't guess that it was acrylic at all. It doesn't have that acrylic-y look.
And I like confusing people, so.
Yes, it's very fun when people look at it and they're like, I don't know if it's even digital or not. And you're like, ha. Exactly. Is that kind of one of the things that you find you kind of get the most passionate about, is the actual process of working in of itself?
Yes, absolutely. Like if all I had to look forward to was the finished piece, I wouldn't enjoy it nearly as much. That's why, I mean, I make so many of my pieces so detailed, because I know I'm going to enjoy every step of it. And other people are like, I don't have the patience for that. And I'm like, this is why I paint how I paint, because I can sit here for hours painting little scales on a iguana or flower petals or whatever. And it's just so relaxing to me. So definitely the process is huge. Like it's a large percentage of why I do what I do.
Absolutely. And I'll just remind the audience, if you're watching live, feel free to leave a comment for Kristy, and I can go ahead and ask that as well. And as far as, oh, great. My brain's really playing with me today. Oh, right. So I remembered one of the other things that I had seen you do a lot on TikTok was the palettes, like the fact you're like scraping the palettes. And I don't know why that was like so soothing, but I would just be like, yes, I love that stage of painting, especially with acrylics, because it just peels right off so nice.
Yep. It's a stupid thing that I randomly thought, like, should I put this on TikTok? Is anyone going to like this? And it had been one of my best viewed videos at the time, like when I first did one. I've done several of them at this point, but I was like, well, maybe because I find it so what is the word? Not soothing, satisfying.
Yes.
Maybe other people will.
Strangely satisfying, yes.
Yeah, I'll just do the video. So yeah, it's just like, especially when it comes off in one big piece, I'm like, oh yeah.
Score. Got it. Do you find it frustrating at all when you are on a platform and you are showing your work and you put, maybe not the same amount of work that you would for a 15-minute YouTube video, but you still, you're still putting your work out there, and then maybe that video performs a little better or worse than something you just kind of tossed out there as like a silly thing? Like, how does that make you feel?
I've had to just separate myself from it, because it's happened enough times where I'm like, excuse me, where I can look at the overall quality of my work and be confident that the quality is there. So like when I do one specific video and that doesn't do well, I can't look at that one specific video. I have to look at things overall.
Right.
But like, I'll do a video that takes a long time to shoot, and it won't do. Like I did a vlog. I've done like vlog type videos. I've done things that take a lot of different clips to show, and they'll only get a few hundred views. And then I'll do one that just where I was talking about, hey, I use acrylic like watercolor. And then I showed like a few brush strokes, and then it got like 16,000 views. And I'm like, really? And I wasn't even showing a full
right.
And the same with Instagram. I mean, I've had it happen where I'll put in 32 hours on a painting and post the final, and it'll get a certain number of likes. And then I'll do like an hour-long colored pencil sketch in my sketchbook, and that'll get like hundreds of likes. And I'm like, why did these ones do better? I don't understand. But yeah, you just have to like look at your overall progress and not the individual steps,
Right.
because you'll get down on yourself if you do. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a thing that people really struggle with on all spectrums of either being really popular and having a lot of large audience, and then also the other end of the spectrum where it feels like every post is so important because none have done as well as you'd like. So it feels like this next one has to do well, because it starts feeling, at least in my case, like almost not like you're trying to be desperate, but it does have a little bit of like a air of like, I need this to something to do well.
yeah. Well, and
So
it doesn't help that you're looking at everyone else doing well.
Yeah.
And you're comparing yourself to them when you don't know what stage they're in and how they got there. It does suck sometimes.
And the thing is you can't really just copy someone. Like, you could do your own thing in your own style, but say someone does a lot of close-ups or a lot of sketches or a lot of process vids, and you're trying to do exactly what they're doing, and sometimes, like, it's not replicatable. Is that a word? But it's not something you can just say, you know, do step 1 through 3 and then step 4 is profit. Like, that's not how art works.
No,
and it's certainly not how social media works.
Absolutely not. Everyone's art is different. Everyone's audience is going to be different, and therefore how each audience is going to react to it is going to be completely different. It's so hard to predict. You just can't predict it.
Yeah, not at all. And I find, for me, the thing that's kind of gotten me through and kind of moved past like not having as big of an audience as I've wanted is there's one of two things you can do. You can either change the situation or change your attitude about it. And what changed for me, and what was honestly a little easier to change, was my attitude about it, because I had more direct control over it. And what I kind of came to feel is that, you know, what's really important is having a few very dedicated people who really love what you do, and everybody who likes your stuff actually likes it. That's now more important to me, and I care way more about that than having 1 million followers and not even 2% of them even see my posts or interact with me at all. So I feel like that can be another way to cope too, is like, okay, so you can't make people like your work or like your stuff or follow you, but you can change when people do come into your sphere and do like what you like and do. Then you can change your attitude toward that. And I feel like I've had a lot more healthy aspect. Like, I just don't care as much about the social media stuff, the numbers and how it performs. I pay attention to it, but it's more like, okay, all right, that's fine. That did that. But you can get a separation and a distance. And actually now I kind of look for like the same 3 or 4 people who like my post. I'm like, yeah, you saw it. Yay.
I almost feel like I have friends when that happens, like, you know, almost like real life friends, when you see the same people interacting with your stuff. It's really nice. And the other thing
I feel like that's...
Sorry.
No
I was going to say that the other thing is, to that point, is at least what's become most important for me is that I like what I'm doing and that I'm enjoying it. And if I'm only doing it for the external validation, I'm going to burn out. So I have to first and foremost be passionate about the work I'm making and not doing it for any reason other than I want to be doing it. I think that's important too.
Yeah, absolutely. I just, I'm working on drafting a post right before the show, and I came up with, I'm still toying with the wording, but I came up with the idea of, what if we did, instead of doing what we should, we did what we could. And I like that mentality of like, we're so pressured as people in society to follow society, which is just this giant it's basically like the median choice of most people. That's all. Like, it doesn't really account for outliers. It doesn't account for individuals. It just kind of shows the vast array of choices and how a lot of them were the same, and
Right.
for certain people and for a lot of things, and that the way it trickles down, the way I see it trickle down a lot in every aspect of every part of your life is kind of fascinating. I feel like for artists, we kind of have this like idea, like you thought that you should be doing fantasy art, or you should be doing art with humans or non-animal subject matter.
Right.
But why?
but why? Yeah, and it's amazing how long it takes to break out of that, and like what you have to go through to figure that out. In my case, it's 8 years of just being in the corporate world and realizing, wait a minute.
Do I have to do this, or should I follow my like true passion? And do you want to talk a little bit about the kind of like move from like a particular job that you had, and then kind of what kind of gave you the ability to do your art full time now, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said before, I got the job right out of college in an office. And I will say, like, it gave me some real good customer service skills. Like, I am very professional
handy
now.
and yes, super handy for dealing with clients as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know how to bill things. I know how to calculate tax. You know, it's great.
Yes.
But, you know, I was there for, I think, 9.5 years. And you know, in 2017, when I reached that point, I was like, wait a minute, like, this is not what I set out to do. Like, it's given me a lot of good skills and good experiences, but it is not what I had. It was not the plan. And it's not my passion, of course, like art is. So what can I do now to move myself toward that? And, you know, I think I started at the end of 2017, I think I started an Etsy shop, which Etsy is great, but it's very slow growing. So at that point I was like, what are all the things I can do to maybe sell my work? So Etsy was the first one. And then I started doing art fairs, local ones, like the outdoor ones with the tents. I did tons for 2 years. Actually, wait, for 2018 and 2019, I did a bunch of them, and those went really great. I was planning on doing them this year too, but hey.
Of course. Yeah. Why not?
I was like,
no reason why not.
I was getting all my applications in, and then I started getting the trickle of emails saying, hey, so we're canceling. But yeah, those were the couple avenues I looked into first. And then I was like, hey, I love painting animals. I could offer pet portraits. And so I started doing that. And that's been a really great thing. Like, it started out as just friends and family, and then word of mouth starts to trickle out. And then now I'm at a point where like random people on Instagram are asking for them. So that's a really cool thing. So I think, let's see, at the end of 2018, I was making consistently enough to know that I would at least be able to contribute to our finances if I quit. Now, for context, I'm married. My husband works full time. He's got a good job. So that I didn't have to be making the same that I was making at the office job in order for us to survive. So just to give context to that, because you think, you hear people, oh, they went full time, they must be raking it in, or like, why can't I do that? Why am I not in that? Like, you got to take into account everyone's situation, everyone's cost of living. But you know, that's my specific circumstance. So at the beginning of 2019, I left that job. I got a part-time job babysitting for about 6 months after that, just to kind of like ease the transition financially. And then by the end of that, I knew like, okay, I can keep contributing weekly to the finances from what I'm making from art. And then, you know, my goal is to keep growing financially as a business. But I can see the growth, even though it's slow, and it is happening. So it's exciting. Like, I can see the upward trajectory. So that's always a fun, encouraging thing.
And I've seen it even just the little bit of time I've been following you on TikTok. Like, it's nice when I see my friends and I see them over time continuing to just get the more and more and more
Yeah.
views and likes and everything. And I'm just like, yay, go.
I love cheering people on. It's always so encouraging because like you're on the one hand really happy that they're doing good, and it also is like, oh, like it confirms to you that it's possible.
Right.
So it's good to see it in other people because it makes you more encouraged that you can do the same thing.
Absolutely. And I feel like there are a lot of people who do see another success and they do find it either frustrating or just kind of potentially like discouraging maybe, like, oh, they're doing it, but I can't or something. But I've kind of always seen other people do various things. And for me, it was encouraging. Like if I saw a wildlife artist doing well, I thought, oh, I'm a wildlife artist also. So now I can do it well, which is why representation for me is so important, because if you see someone like yourself succeeding, that means that it is possible. There's a precedent there for success. And that means to me that I can also join them. I'm all about like, let's all join together in success and not kind of like, I don't see it a lot in the illustration world, but I'm not big in the fine art world, but I feel like there's a little bit more like closed in kind of atmosphere in that one. And it's very standoffish, and like the whole steer behind it is like, is to not share your process and not share how you do stuff, and not share the success and the pathway to your success with people, because it's like, oh, it's top secret. And
do they not know how many people there are in the world that like to buy art? Like there's so many people. There are potential audiences for everybody, and like this like closed, stingy attitude isn't helping anybody.
No.
I tend to be like overly optimistic. Well, not overly, but like I always tend to the optimistic side of everything. So I'm just like, let's everybody get their slice. More for everybody.
Yes. Great. Exactly. I've been dubbed obnoxiously over optimistic in the past, so I can relate. I try to stay in the realm of realism, but I just get ahead of myself. Sometimes I'll announce some kind of grandiose idea I have of like some aspect of like world peace, and someone's like, oh, it could get corrupted this way, and I'm like, dang it, I didn't think about that, because I'm only thinking of the purest intention. And then someone's like, oh, actually, that's not a great idea for this very good and valid specific reason. Yes, we do need the realism to stay in there. I don't know if outright pessimism is always warranted, but I'm sure I'm just too optimistic to see it. That's the problem.
Yeah, for sure.
So for as far as the different kinds of difficulties you've had, you mentioned there was a transition between your full-time office job to art, and the fact that it has been slower than you probably prefer to grow your social media presence and following, and the amount you would like to be making with your art. Is there any other kind of like difficulties even within those topics that you'd like to mention?
I mean, the biggest difficulty early on was fighting between what I wanted to make and what I think other people want to see. And that, even though I'm in the nature realm and I don't plan on leaving that, there's always a pull of like, people are suggesting things to me, and I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea, but wait a minute, there's this list of things that I really want to do. What if people want that, and that's what they want, and they don't want the thing that I'm planning? And that is definitely a struggle when it comes to my personal work. I mean, like, obviously the pet portraits that people want, like, that's easy. Like, they want me to paint their dog, I can do that easily. But when it comes to the creative work that I make from my own ideas, people will see something I do and be like, oh, you should do a fill in the blank. But then I look over at my list of ideas that I have planned, and I'm like, I have to prioritize the things that come from me. But it's hard to do that sometimes when you're looking at outside influence all the time. So Yeah,
Hmm.
that's a struggle, I think. And I'm not sure it will ever not be a struggle because other people
Well,
have good ideas too.
they
So
do. They do. But also I'd like to just like tell everyone to there's always going to be that person that messages you with real earnesty at the time and they say, "I need this on a shirt. I'd buy it in a second." And you just
yeah,
whip up a Teespring link and you just send it right to them and you're like, bam, 5 minutes later, they aren't going to buy it.
cricket.
So
Yeah,
it's like almost 100% certainty. I've never, in fact, if you're an artist and you did that and somebody said, "I really want this on a shirt or a print," and then they immediately bought it, tell me, like, say it in the comments, let me know, because I've never heard of it. Now, I have had friends who do artwork, and in fact, ugh, I've said, "Hey, you should turn that into a pillow because I'll buy it."
oh
And
yeah,
I will buy, and that's the thing.
yeah.
I don't tell
I don't
people
either.
that unless I intend, and I don't care how much it is. If I ask for, well, I do care, but like if I'm like feeling like I can afford a piece, I've put stuff on credit cards because I asked,
Yeah,
I really liked the piece, I really wanted it, and I put it on a credit card. It was a little more than I expected, but I was like, you know what? It's an original piece of art. I love it.
yeah.
I want it.
You know how
And
that feels
I
to
was the
not.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. To have it
For sure.
specifically asked about and then not purchased, to me, that's like, and to do it to another artist, I'm like, nope, I will not ask. I will wait. I'll just sit and
Yeah,
see if a price appears on the internet at some point or see if someone else asks. But I'm
yeah.
not going to be the one to ask and then not purchase. So I make sure I'm very, that's just a personal thing for me. Cause again, I know
That's good.
how it feels to get that tinge of hope of like, yes, I made a sale, even though there's been no
Hmm.
transaction other than words. And
Yeah,
then for it to not, it doesn't even that it falls through. It's just that the person gets the information and then you're just like, all right, you gonna actually do anything?
and then that's kind of related to how you get so many people abandoning their shopping carts on Etsy. Like, I'll log out
Mm-hmm.
sometimes and go to my shop and see like how many of my items have people have them in their carts and they just didn't buy it. I'm like, oh, well, it's nice to know they liked it, but
Yeah, and almost so close.
almost so close. Yeah.
Have you seen the trick I've seen on Etsy before, where if you can find their information, you can actually message them with a coupon code? Are
Oh,
you aware of
I
that?
have
Yeah,
heard that. I haven't looked into it though.
yeah. I'm pretty sure if you're, and I haven't messed with Etsy in a while, but I'm pretty sure that you can see, because you can see if somebody's had something in your cart. So if you
Yeah, if you,
message them
yeah.
and say like, "Hey, I've just randomly given out some
Hmm.
coupon codes and I decided to give you 10% off of anything you want to buy in the
Hmm.
shop."
Although
And
I
then
have heard the stance on that they already wanted that thing,
yeah,
so now you're devaluing it. No, that's another way
yeah,
to look at it. I'm not saying
right.
one is better than the other, but
Oh, sure,
I'm kind of like iffy because I don't know if I should do that or not.
right.
Um,
No,
but
that's a
yeah,
good point. And that's again my optimism. I'm like, make that sale, but it's like,
yeah,
no, that's the other side of it, of what that you got to pay
hmm,
attention to as well. Is like, is
yeah,
that a method of potentially devaluing your sales and
hmm,
or your art in general? Um, it's always really hard for me to kind of feel on that, and I feel like
hmm,
maybe if you put up certain criteria, like, oh, I won't do
yeah.
that with original art, but if it's a print,
That yes, yeah. I don't think I would do that with originals. But
yeah.
yeah, that really makes sense. Um, one other struggle I've not really a struggle, but like something I'm trying to work through is when you do an in-person art fair, it's so easy
Mm-hmm.
for people to see the thing in front of them and impulse buy because they see it right there and they want it. But like
Yes.
translating your sales onto online, people have to specifically look for your specific thing. So you don't have that
Mm-hmm.
same sort of like your product in front of hundreds of faces at a time. So it's a
Right.
very different way of selling that I don't think I have a handle on yet.
It's
So
very
that's yeah.
difficult.
Yep. But
So we have a question here. It's asked on Etsy, can you see when someone puts your shop in favorites? I'm not
yeah,
sure on that one. You can?
yep, you
Okay.
can. Yep, you get a notification if they favorite your shop or an item. Yep.
Nice. That's good to know.
Huh.
Yeah, I'm always like struggling with that too. The marketing side of things, especially online. I've heard some people have good luck with limited, so they'll do things in person, which was, you know, easier before. That's what we're going to call it now, just before. And
the before time.
the before times, BC, before Corona. Anyway, but what they were saying is that they'll do open edition prints there at a con, but online they only do limited edition because it puts a time limit, and they could also put further pressure by saying this is for this month only. Or I see all that backfires on me because my audience isn't big enough to really like do that. I feel like you have to have a certain size of audience before that method is viable, because
a fan base.
I have limited editions and I sold of 30 and I sold 2, and it's been like 6 years. So it was 2014. So yeah, you're kind of aware of your audience and everything. Looks like we have another question. Can you tell us what one of your favorite pieces is?
Ooh.
I imagine of your own pieces.
Yeah. I think the one on the cover art, the wolf and the wildflowers.
Yes.
That one for sure. I think because of like just the vibe it gives me, like the peaceful, like,
it's like tranquil.
You know, very tranquil, and you don't usually think of putting a wolf in that type of scenery. At least I don't. So that's kind of why I did it, because I was like, well, I like wolves. I don't want to make them look scary. I want to put butterflies and birds and flowers around it, so I'm going to do that. And it was a big piece. It was 16 by 20, and it took probably over 30 hours to do. So that one is one of my favorites. Although that snail one that I just did, I don't know, I really like that one too.
It really gets me. And in fact, if you're interested, if you're watching this over on Patreon, we actually have an exclusive phone wallpaper. So that will be available to patrons on the Colourisma. That's Colourisma. No, let's get it correct. Patreon.com/Colourisma. So Kristy's offered that, and also a coupon code for your shop. So we just talked about whether or not coupons are good or bad, but we do have one. It's exclusive. It might be the last one. I'm just joking. But it's over.
The print of that piece is in my shop too.
Yeah. So as far as the things when they are getting difficult, what kind of keeps you going? What kind of things like push you to keep going when things are difficult?
I just don't. There isn't anything I love to do as much. Like, so I just don't. There's no other option for me. I think that's where it is. Like, art is the thing I'm gonna do, so I gotta figure it out. Like, that's what it is.
Yeah. I feel the exact same way.
Not to go work for someone else. Like, now that I've had a taste of being self-employed, it's like, this is what I want to do. Like, I love doing this job. So yeah, it's just like this is the option I have, and I'm going to make it so that this is my only option, and so I have to work it out.
Right.
And like, of course,
exactly.
the process
I've said that before.
Going. I love it. So
absolutely, yes. So it's kind of like keeping your eye on the positive, like the things when things are difficult, you can look and say, well, at least I get to do an artwork piece today, or something like that.
Yep, absolutely.
And you mentioned you had an Etsy. Is there any other kind of platform that you're interested in moving to as well?
Well, we were talking about
have discussed this at one point.
Yeah. I did get the hint you were giving me. Yeah. So I mean, I've always been thinking about Patreon, but it's like, you know, it's hard to know what to offer. You know, I want to make it worthwhile for people if they're going to subscribe to me. And then I don't know if I have a big enough audience. So those are two those are two roadblocks I'm looking at right now for as far as moving to that
Right.
platform. So yeah.
Well, if I would say if you are starting to get your audience growing on TikTok now, what I have not seen is a lot of advertisements on TikTok of any sort, which is good and bad because like that it's a little bit of a challenge to kind of promote yourself on the platform because
Yeah.
when there's nothing on there, people can sniff out an ad in a second and then they're just like, skip, I don't want it. So you really have to be engaging. But if you
Yeah.
are able to have a way of making fun or even just a very casual mention to your shop or your Patreon on that platform, I'd say you have a sizable enough audience that of people that are very interested in what you do, and especially anyone who's kind of expressed interest in seeing more of what you do. I would definitely say that you are on the track to be able to do Patreon for sure. I was thinking about it from our conversation before, different like reward ideas, and you can go online and Google, best reward ideas for artists, and some of them, I mean, a lot of times it's like, it's a big platform for a lot of different creatives. So you've got everything from writers to filmmakers to musicians, and not all of those rewards really translate to visual art. And I think we discussed before that while you have a very large passion of showing your work, you don't really have the same like passion to be like a teacher per se, which I relate to a lot.
Yeah,
so
I love showing my process, but it's so time consuming trying to translate my process to words in a way that someone can understand, and every moment spent trying to do that takes away from my painting time.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's not something that I want to delve too deeply in.
Right. So it's definitely one of those things where you want to be careful about the rewards and how you word it, because if you say things like learn or teach or any kind of related language towards that, then people are going to go towards more of like a resource learning as opposed to like an entertainment enjoyment source. So it's definitely one of those like tricky kind of things that you got to work around as far as Patreon goes and the way you're doing it. A couple of things though, I think that, and I think we discussed too, you don't necessarily want a Patreon full of just other artists to kind of like enjoy your work, because especially if you're not going the art education route, then if they like your work, they'll support you. But then at that point, I wouldn't say they're supporting you as an artist. They're supporting you as a fan, a like potential collector. And if that's kind of the audience you want to kind of gear yourself towards, then you definitely want to make rewards that kind of fit that kind of thing. And I wrote down a few of them that have both worked for me and just that I've seen others do as well that might work for you. I would say like the wallpapers, and especially like right now, phone wallpapers, any kind of digital reward. I would say for as long as you can, stick with digital rewards, because the fulfillment process can be very exhausting. And I know a lot of artists kind of, I don't want to say shoot themselves in the foot, but they kind of shoot themselves in the foot with like how
they burn
much
themselves out with it. Yeah. Especially when they become really successful. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's nice to offer a print for everyone of a certain tier, an unlimited tier at that, when you have 10 patrons. But when you have, say, like 200 patrons in that tier, that's 200 different prints you have to, ship out. And then that's 200, however much, postage costs, which is going to be more than $1. So that's definitely more than just $200. So you have to definitely make sure that all that kind of checks out. And for me, digital rewards kind of help with that the most.
I did think of one, coloring book pages.
Yes, very much so. And your work would really lend itself to that, I feel, for sure. And you're still doing drawings as well?
Yeah, I do. But I've also realized that like I can very easily kind of digitally trace some of my paintings and make them into line work. I've actually tried that with a couple pieces so far, and it works great. So that would be a thing.
Yeah, that would work out really, really well, I feel.
Yeah.
Another one that I haven't had a lot of experience with, but the monthly hangout streams. So like once a month you do like a exclusive stream, live stream.
Mm-hmm.
Now that one's a little tricky for me because in some ways I'm like, but I want to stream all the time. So why limit it to just because then if you do it all the time everywhere, then it again takes away some of the value of offering it as an exclusive. But also,
I would be okay doing it exclusive because
really,
I actually did try Twitch at one point, which I enjoyed, but I found it to be a lot of pressure to do it more than like once a week. Like,
yes.
Mentally, I had to prepare myself every time to be able to have people see me.
Right.
So yeah, it would be
when
something
it's on your terms.
Yeah. So an exclusive would probably work out well for me. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely one. And these two, the wallpaper and the hangout streams, I would definitely go at the $5 or above tier for both of those. And depending on how exclusive you want it to be, maybe 10 or 15. I feel like I worked retail and less is more. And the fewer choices you offer, the better it is for people to make a decision. I feel like when given too many options, I've seen Patreon pages where they have like 6 or 9 different tiers.
Yeah.
And crazy. It's like, I would say 3 to 5.
3, yeah.
It out. And I would say start at $2. Some people do 1 and 3. I find $2 is a good entry point, and then 5, 10, 15, 25, kind of whichever number you want to settle on that makes you feel the best. But I'd say those kind of things. And high level tiers are harder, I find, to give digital value. But then I think at that rate, you kind of want to go towards the exclusivity of it.
Yeah, and for what you're offering a higher tier that is going to potentially have fewer people in it, I would be okay at that point doing a physical reward, like a small original or something like that, depending on how much I would charge for that tier. I think wouldn't be too much work if it was a smaller tier.
And especially if you want to limit that tier too. So like maybe only 5 people a month can get it in on it or something. I've seen a lot of people have a lot of success with that, especially when they do traditional media stuff, for sure. Some other just like little things, definitely like some of the smaller range tiers. You could do discount codes if that's something you want to do for like your print specifically. Okay. And then printables, like the little things you can print out, like you said, coloring pages already, but you can also do bookmarks or calendar pages for the month.
Calendars.
Which are less popular in a physical medium as far as like buying a full calendar.
Yeah.
I feel that like printing it out, a lot of people have some kind of access to some printer. So that would be a cool way to go about that. Yeah. And then, like I said, the exclusive looks, I know for my personal patreon.com/SharReed, just fit it in anywhere you can.
Promote.
Like,
Love it.
Just do it. Don't feel weird about it. Don't make it weird. But for that one, the high tier, it's actually interesting because I used to have the really, really next panel, next page for my comic in the lower tiers. And then I was like, you know what? Actually, I can save that for like the most exclusive, because this is like potentially months away that you're getting the plot and the furtherment of the story. So you're actually going to get a super exclusive look if you get on there, because I have pages that are way out in the future that are just super sketchy and everything, but you get to see kind of before anyone else. And I realized like there's a lot of value in that. Like, why was I offering that on my lowest tier at one point? Like, so it's sometimes the things that you almost don't even value as much as yourself that your audience would actually really enjoy and respect. And I have 2 people on my highest tier, so that's people that are very interested in the property, and those are your super fans, and they are going to really respond and want to have that kind of stuff.
That's so cool.
And then a couple last ones. Of course, you can offer Discord, I think, on all levels of your
Now,
Patreon.
what the heck is Discord? Is it just a chat thing? Like, I'm so old. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. It took me a long time to get used to Discord as well. So basically, Discord is like an old-fashioned forum, but like more. If you think of it as a forum, it's just like a manageable forum.
Okay.
If you think of it like forums 3.0, then it kind of makes more sense. It all kind of clicks. You can understand how to interact with it better. And each person and each, kind of property that you manage, you can have a different Discord for. Community Discords. Colourisma has a Discord if you want to get on that, patrons. I could even, well, I don't know. I'm still new to Discord too, so I'm still trying to figure out like how to promote it and everything, which, I'm doing a terrible job at, so. And then as far as the last two I had thought of was a Q&A to be able to ask you questions.
Oh, yeah.
That's a very valuable one. And even if you want to do like this mixed with, especially on TikTok, dedicated videos to specific patrons. So they could ask a question and maybe at a higher tier, you could do a video response, which I know that a lot of people do video responses on TikTok just whenever they feel like. I've been tagged in a few and I almost have like a little panic attack because most of them are like takedown videos because they don't like the comment. So it's fine. They weren't takedown videos toward me, but like most comment videos I see are kind of like little takedown videos because it's people being snarky in the comments, and then you get a chance to video reply back to them. So I've see a lot of that.
One video reply. It was actually really appreciated by the person because they were asking a question about my process, and I was like, this is a really valuable way to connect with people. To like, you actually feel like you're talking to the person to ask the question.
Right. So I don't know how exactly you could incorporate that into potentially Patreon. You could have a series where you do a video like special dedicated to them. And then maybe also if they're on a social media, you could put their little tag in the video. So then it's like a little tiny promotion for them. And then you also have like that special kind of like budding relationship with them as well.
Wow. I've got a lot to think about.
And if you ever want to come back later, we can, once you get your Patreon up and running, I'd love to hear about your process with that and getting the whole process of getting your first patrons and all that as well.
I might have to make that a goal for this year.
Yeah.
See where it goes.
It's I've heard it's August now. Time is moving very oddly.
Time is a construct. Time is meaningless.
It kind of is. And this year I would actually be really okay if it were to go faster rather than slower. But
will it get better if it goes faster? That is the question.
Well, yeah, that is a very good question. I felt like February and March were going so slow. And I actually said this out loud, which I might have jinxed us all. I'm sorry, but I said out loud, maybe March is going so slow because it knows how bad the rest of the year will be. So it's trying to have a savor March. And I was like, why did I say that? It's all my fault. I'm sorry. The whole entire world. The whole entire world.
Wow.
I know it's a lot of pressure to put on myself, but so I think it is right about time. It's about 4:00 now here where I'm at. Is there any other thing that you would like to promote as far as getting your stuff out there?
Not anything additional, but just, remember the spelling of my last name, guys.
And you're at Etsy shop too, right?
K Guenther art everywhere. Yep. Etsy shop. Yep. I'm adding stuff to it all the time when I do originals, so check it out.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited to see more of your art because I'm a huge personal fan. So I may have to save up a little to get one of them originals.
Aww.
I'm looking at that.
I've loved following you too. Your art is amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. All right, everyone. I think that's everything as far as this week goes. I am in talks with someone about another interview for next week. So I've been
Yay!
really enjoying and been super pumped to chat with everyone. That's kind of like really what I wanted to do with the show is have little
Keep them
chats
coming.
with artists. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
just so
I love
excited
it.
to keep doing this week after week. So I
Oh yeah.
appreciate everyone for coming and chatting with us live. And for anyone who is watching this afterward, just go ahead and let me know if you have ever had someone buy a piece from you after they claimed they really wanted you to have that out in the world. I really need to know if anyone like this, anyone like I
I
just
know.
need to know that. So just comment in the chat in the comments if that has happened to you. So I appreciate everyone, and I will
Thank
catch y'all
you.
later. So take care, and I'll see you next week. Bye.